Hey guys, welcome back. And today is More Design Mistakes, Volume 2. So the first mistake that I see a lot is what I call working it to death. You know when you've seen a space like this. Perfect example. This is a Tuscan expensive residence, and the fireplace is great for it. The ceiling heights are lovely. They're just continued with the elements, the overwrought tables, the carved wood, the ornate grills on the door, the columns that are faux finished. I mean, it's all just so heavy and overdone that you feel like you're standing in a faux castle of some sort. You know, with design, what you want to do is practice some restraint and still deliver your style statement. So let's look at another way to do Tuscan that looks a whole lot different. It feels a whole lot different. It still says Tuscan, but it says Tuscan in a designer way. High ceilings again, dark wood floors, nicely tailored traditional upholstered items. But then you've also got the linear pattern in the windows. They're still black, it's still ironwork, but it's nice and cleaned up. The walls are not heavy and dark and faux finished. They're simply just a light colored plaster. The fireplace, even though it's a large fireplace, is much calmer and simpler, and the scale is good. So what they've done is they've managed to master delivering the look without overdoing it. So that's mistake number one. So the second thing I see a lot is kind of what I call matchy-matchy, or the showroom effect, where someone goes in and they buy all the same pieces of furniture upholstered the same way. You'd think you saw it in a showroom that it might work, but why doesn't that work? When a designer approaches creating a space, those rooms end up having depth and tension and interest and texture, and all of those elements can't be generated from the exact same product. As you can see, look at this picture with the blue chairs. It's like there's nothing interesting going on there. So study spaces that do work. Look at why they work. A beautiful example is this room I love. It's kind of a transitional statement, and it's got a very contemporary coffee table, but it also has a very traditional occasional table on the side. Beautiful, high, traditional windows, but the room is painted all white as if it were contemporary. So there's elements in play that create contrast to each other, and that makes the space more interesting, and it all flows together so beautifully. And if these tips are helping, be sure and let me know in the comments down below. Okay guys, so the third mistake that I see a lot, it's area rugs on wall-to-wall carpeting. Now, it looks great in pictures. In real life, it doesn't work so well. Let me show you why. So not only is this a bad visual choice, but there's some really practical reasons why it doesn't work very well. Honestly, look at this picture. There's a lot of things wrong with this picture, but the worst thing is the area rug on that carpet. It doesn't work because most wall-to-wall carpeting is constructed a certain way. And if you saw my video on rugs, I go into it in depth. But just to get a reference point, most wall-to-wall has nap to it. And that nap, this one's like a 1/4 inch high, okay? Now that nap is moving, all right? So if you put something else, another carpet on top of that, that carpet also has a nap. So now, just like this picture, you've got probably a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch of material that's moving underfoot. So in reality, it's not very practical, and it really actually doesn't usually work very well, with the exception of one situation. This is a little faux cowhide sitting on top of a very low pile looped carpet below it. That works. And it works because that faux cowhide is super thin. The other place that it works is if you have a really large carpet that is a natural fiber like a seagrass or a woven jute. This is really a sweet look too, where you can do like a flat woven Persian style carpet, or maybe a flat woven Durry or something tribal looking, and put that down on that very thin other carpet that's already down, and that will work. So the next mistake I see that's in one of the most important rooms of the house, the kitchen, is dark countertops. Now, let me just tell you, there's 3 reasons. They're very much dated. They were a thing about 20 years ago. They also really are bad at chopping up the space visually. So they create kind of a belt effect and they just break the space up so it really makes the kitchen look smaller. And then the third thing is that they're really bad in terms of hiding dirt and mold. With dark countertops, you never know if they're dirty unless you run your hand across them. So it's just a real issue, and it actually can be dangerous in some situations. Next up, beware of the Instagram home. I call this trend death, and overdosing on Instagram and Pinterest can create a state of design FOMO that ends up making the final project a hot mess of way too many trends all in the same space competing for attention. When designers start establishing a style with their client, one of the things that we do is we create boards. Take all of this imagery that you continually see and place it in a Pinterest page, and then as you look at it, what will happen is things will begin to pop out that are repeated. Those things that are repeated over and over again are the things that you are most drawn to and will be most important to express about you and your personal style. And you will know exactly what your spaces want to look like at the end of that process. Okay guys, so I have saved one of my biggest mistakes for last, which is TVs over fireplaces. Every builder I know that's building new construction just pops that power in right over that firebox halfway up to the ceiling. Everybody I work with has to move that, and I'll tell you why it's a problem. The first reason is by putting the TV over the fireplace, you ruin the opportunity to have this lovely focal point statement made of the fireplace. Secondly, because it's a firebox, the majority of the TVs have to be mounted so high that when you're seated watching them, you're like this. I mean, look at the angle between the sofa seat and the television. I mean, you have to be 8 feet tall. You might be, some of you, I'm not sure, to have your head in the right place for that television to work. There's lots of good solutions. Let me show them to you. Here's the trick when you're going to mount a television near a fireplace. As you can see from this picture here, the fireplace is a lovely feature. It's been clad in kind of a ledge stone of some sort, but to the side, it's got the television mounted on a wall at a reasonable height, and then below it, just a credenza or a console or some type of TV media cabinet you can put underneath it so that it grounds the television. Because visually, the television is usually this black thing on the wall and got all of this empty space below it. It's ungrounded. It makes the television look purposeful and intentional, and it's at the right height. Okay guys, so that wraps up volume 2 of mistakes. I'm sure there'll be a third one. Be sure and check out volume 1 here. And if you haven't gotten onto my email list yet, be sure and go to lisaholtdesign.com. Drop me your email and I'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening with the Design Club. And please, of course, like and subscribe. It makes such a difference to the channel. And I'll see you guys next week.